Welcome back to Heal. Healing, Empowering, Accepting, and Living, a podcast sponsored by Changed by Fire. Grateful to have you here as part of our ongoing journey of healing, finding safety and connection, and building a greater sense of understanding and hope in self and relationships through the burn injury. My name is Jen Severance, and I am a burn survivor going back to 2017. And my friend here.
My name is Lori Janik, and I am a 15-year burn advocate, social worker, and current holistic trauma therapist. So a little recap of our last episode, episode 4 of the Building and Bolstering Relationships series. We really looked at burns from the eyes of the children. So burn injuries and their impacts on parenting, family dynamics. What are some of the different understandings developmentally of children? And how can you support their understanding and their operation throughout a burn injury and healing state? We did a little Q&A with JC and Emmy Perro, who are children of a burn survivor of an adult burn survivor in our local Arizona community, and really got their take on how they were able to understand and support their mother's healing and burn support needs on their own. How have you applied our takeaway technique, the feelings and family photos, which was really meant to explore and identify how emotions show up surrounding a burn injury and allow children and adults a chance to remain engaged and supportive in healing? What have been some ways that you've found to support youth in understanding and healing burn injuries, your life? We would love to hear more from you. This episode, we're going to step into a more difficult aspect of relationships in burn healing, but yet also one that we can't really shy away from: when the relationships don't heal with the injury. So let's take a look at how we can navigate through those hard spaces of ending and letting go, some of the more difficult patterns of life. Let's get healing.
So burn injuries are tough for so many reasons. They involve change in so many key areas of your life: how your body looks, feels, and functions, how you are able to engage in school, in work, in your hobbies, how you are able to engage in relationships, and how you see and perceive yourself as well. And how do we as humans typically respond to change? Generally not so well.
True.
Not well, especially when many of these changes are fully outside of our control. After a burn injury, so much focus is placed on the physical. The physical needs for wound healing, the functionality of your limbs and use, and just basic survival. So these are often addressed in hospital and clinic, and a path of recovery is indicated, and an individual is discharged to home care and the supports therein. And often here is where difficulties can further arise. When you're planted back in your home setting, you're a completely different person. You have this new huge thing going on, and how a burn survivor can return back into a relationship and how the relationship partner receives and perceives.
And I think, as we mentioned in earlier episodes, the roles of a partner in a relationship surrounding a burn injury, they often get really blurred. The lines, the roles, the responsibilities around healing and recovery. And so the partner of a burn survivor often has to take on a lot of extra tasks: home care, responsibilities, supporting their loved one now, and how do they navigate the healing process, stepping up to take care of kids, financial needs. Oftentimes, too, they are the one who steps in as the caregiver upon that transition back to home, changes dressings, assists in toileting, basic functioning needs. That's a lot and it can indeed take a toll on a relationship. A relationship partner themselves is going through their own states of shock, grief, misunderstanding perhaps surrounding the injury, the impact of how it's affecting their loved one. They may be angry, they may be sad, they may be overwhelmed by all the changes that are happening. They may even project some of this on their loved one and or engage in patterns of support and coping otherwise. There's many people that turn to substances or will turn to physical or emotional affairs or abuses or a pattern of over control to kind of navigate through life. So there's a lot of factors that people will turn to rather than necessarily like the communication and the additional therapeutic supports that can ally.
That is key, communication. And in order for relationships to build, survive, and thrive through an injury, there has to be a willingness to provide supports to meet those needs, and especially a solid communication of needs and wants and efforts to line up, to match as best as possible. And when there is a foundation of this prior to the burn injury, this can lay the foundation to continue to build on through the injury and healing process. But when there was friction already existent, poor communication patterns, hyper independence with either partner, defensive and avoidant patterns, financial is a huge one, relational struggles, the burn injury and healing experience has a rocky place on which to build. So relationships can often not withstand the pressure of the healing process and the support needs.
Well, and definitely there's a lot of common stressors, I think, that come up in relationships through the burn healing process. So the level of time that's needed to devote to healing versus actually in the relationship, the changes in appearance of that burn survivor and how both partners perceive that. A survivor's changes in ability or mobility and how that affects their overall functioning, the dynamics of the relationship, the family, the need for partners to carry different roles, and maybe the lack of communication surrounding where help needs lie and where help needs don't, and some of the resentment that often can build around that, because resentment often goes alongside with expectations that are not fully communicated. The lack of intimacy and desire for, with appearance being different, pain, healing difficulties surrounding. So a lot of different things can happen. And these changes in your body image, emotions, and roles can really negatively impact a survivor and their sense of connection and support with their partner. A survivor might feel distress, embarrassment, anger with regards to their body changing. They might be more anxious about hiding or showing or sharing their burns with others. They might struggle with sleeping, with having some really volatile mood changes that affect their ability to really be in and engage in the relationship and be intimate and share communication. They might cycle into depression or loneliness or utilize substances to cope, to navigate the changes. Additionally, burn survivors in healing can often feel less needed and less in control of their life, like they've lost a role, a place, and feel a drop in self-esteem, reliance, having to rely on others like they didn't have to do before. Whereas that partner might similarly struggle with, how their loved one's body has changed, how they feel towards them, what they could do before, what they can do now. They might even feel shamed and hurt and angry at their own emotional responses and not know how to kind of navigate any factors of coping and support. They might feel burdened with the new roles that they're having to carry, have a sense of resentment, struggle, overwhelmed with how do I do this? And the big key factor, I think, in a lot of relationships dysfunction surrounding healing is that lack of communication, but that expectation and projection. So I can't think of how many times in the hospital I remember working like at a child life capacity, and parents would not really talk to each other. There would be a sense of emotional friction and shame and blame surrounding like how they perceive showing up for their child and their support needs. And so it really affected that relationship, child-parent dynamic. I remember in working with adults, just lack of visitation that would happen often, lots of conversations with partners around, I don't know how to handle, this feels too big, I just can't do this, wanting to just kind of get up and walk. So lots of, it's stressful and overwhelming if there's no sense of support or partnership through this. And a lot too can really depend on where the relationship lay prior to the injury. If you were already in a state of friction and difficulty, this might make it too much to handle.
Absolutely. Yeah, that strong foundation is so important. And you might really see, I don't know, the true colors of someone, I suppose, after a burn injury, how they respond to it, how do they show up, essentially. For me, my wonderful partner, Mike, he was at the hospital every day.
Yep.
Yeah, every day. He'd drive home after work, feed the dogs, and then come to the hospital. And I was in there for a month, So, and that's not possible for everybody, which has got to be so hard to be juggling the kids, your job, and then to have this addition of your partner going through something really horrible. And how much are you able to be there for them? Even just practically, how much do you want to be there and how much can you be, So that it's a lot to handle as the partner of a burn survivor, for sure. Yep. So our guest today, we're going to have a guest today, has bravely offered his willingness to share his own story of healing and relationship changes through his burn injury several years ago. It's a story that may tear your heart a little bit, but also there is value in sharing, normalizing what can happen, and providing a sense of empathic witness and support to the harder stories of healing as well. Not just the hope parts. So welcome to Dave, our guest on today's podcast. Welcome.
Hello.
Yay. I actually met Dave, I don't know, was it maybe last year? It was actually a Changed by Fire event, and I sat across from you and your daughter, and we made pottery together. Do you remember?
Yeah. That was awesome because we did the yoga that day too.
Yeah, we did yoga. It was awesome.
And I met Dave early on in his hospital stay. I met you. I think you had a bunch of people constantly coming to your room. And I remember your sweet little daughter. And just I think my role back then was really just to help connect people to additional resources and support. So I remember just visiting a lot and trying to help support your direction through something extremely horrendous.
Yes. Yeah, it was definitely interesting. You were there probably within that first week, I think.
Yeah.
I was after my surgery and all that. You may even saw me before the leg was taken, I think, too.
I might have.
Maybe right before. Because I was within those first 3 days.
You were upstairs.
Well, on that note, Dave, can you briefly share with us about your burn injury? When and how it happened and how it impacted you?
Well, mine all came from a motorcycle accident. It was March 10th, 2016. Me and one of my buddies from the club I ride with were riding home, and he turned in front of me down a road that we didn't normally turn down. I'm not sure why still to this day, but I ended up hitting him, colliding with him, and got ejected over my handlebars, and probably 30, 40 feet, I think is what the detective or whatever said. Forgot who I was talking to at the time, but and he ended up going down. His bike ignited. He got stuck under it. I didn't know it at the time, but I had broke both my bones through my leg, clean through. But I tried to get up and help him, and I couldn't. So I ended up crawling in, and I got burned because I reached in and picked up his bike out of the fire and pulled him out. And I had a denim on, and it basically melted onto my arm and back and everything, and would have got my face too if I didn't have my helmet on. I got one little thing on the end of my nose, but that was it. And that healed up really fast.
Thank goodness. Wow.
But yeah, it was pretty crazy. Went through all that, and making the choice to lose my leg and everything, and skin grafts and all that. I was in the burn center probably, I think that was 30 days there. And then I did another 2 weeks in the rehab facility after that. So before I was even able to come home.
Yeah.
Wow. And I remember, like, at the time of your injury, you were married, had a cute little girl.
Yes,
and
Zoe.
So what was your relationship like prior to your injury? And how did your wife, your daughter navigate the injury, the hospital, the care needs, the supports? How did you guys all handle that?
Well, the easiest part to explain would probably be my daughter. She was barely even getting to 3. She was going to be 3 in a couple months. So we had to do Liz was at the hospital all the time with me and everything. So grandparents watched her, that kind of thing. They brought her up and I got a chance to see her for the first time. It was like 2 weeks after the accident had happened. And they brought her in where I had to go visit her outside in like a little garden courtyard, which is crazy because like my body temperature was all over the place. So I had to go out there wrapped up like a mummy to be able to sit in the garden or whatever. And she was very like didn't recognize me, didn't know who I was at first. You could tell totally. But it just took probably about 5 minutes of me goofing around with her, and then she came back and I was riding her around in the wheelchair and sitting in my lap and everything. So that was probably like one of the biggest highlights of being in the hospital was when she got a chance to come up there and see me for the first time. So as far as me and Liz go, we were together, or we were married 6 years at that point. And just like any other marriage, we were younger, so that we had our ups and downs like normal everybody else does with everything. But she was my rock through all this. She was at the hospital, barely went home, and everything. But I think it definitely did a number on her, obviously, too, mentally and all that, emotionally with us. So it's just kind of so we were okay. We had normal issues like every other couple did going in, and then she really rose up and was right there with me the whole time in the hospital. So
well, and that brings us to like the healing process and the impact it made on your relationship. So when you got home and that journey began with healing, how did you each face the changes that were taking place?
No, we did everything that we do pretty much in stubborn fashion, like me and her. Because of all the stuff that I was working on in the rehab facility and everything, when we got home, we just basically put it together where I was going to do as much as I possibly could on my own. But I still had dressing changes. I had all that she had to do all that with me with. So it was extremely a lot of hours every day of everything, between the shower that would take me forever and then the redressing of everything and all that yellow stuff. I forgot what it's called.
Xeroform?
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Smelling up the whole house for
memories.
Ruining clothes.
Oh yeah. Before I got the compression stuff and all that for the scar tissue. But yes, it was extreme, but we worked together as a team. But at the same time, she wasn't letting me back down or take any flack or any free ride stuff. It was do as much as you possibly can on your own, because you need to. You have to.
So she really pushed and promoted a lot of your kind of ability to navigate through. So you definitely really had to rely on each other, I feel like, just in coming home. You know kind of how you handled the demands and pressures, and I'm going to ask you to share with us a little bit, but how much do you know about how she was able to navigate and deal with that? What was your communication like?
It was I mean, it wasn't as well as it was before before the accident, for sure. She definitely holds a lot of stuff in, a lot, and just goes into like survival mode a ton. She's got her own stuff that she deals with as well, so she's already in that mode most times with everything. So this, I think, was like really pushed her to, all right, now it's all on me. He doesn't have 100% of his body or anything anymore, so she really like was doing a lot around the house and going into that mode. And I think that's how she kind of helps deal with stuff mentally. I can almost guarantee that, because every time anything would ever go off, she would start cleaning the house and stuff. So
I feel like she had a sense of control.
Of the, like, physical tasks and navigation, but it really kind of sounds like it neglected some of her own like emotional issues with that, and
guaranteed
that was not communicated with you guys. And how did that affect your relationship?
It's very straining. It was very straining. Those first 2 years were really, really, really hard. And then year 3 is when my PTSD from the accident finally hit full on. So I was heavy drinking, everything else like that, and that just ripped our relationship hard down, really hard. So I got to a point where she had to give me an ultimatum, like, you got to go get treatment or we're done. And that's when I was working with you guys and doing the SOAR program and stuff over there. So I was able to get part of the perks with that is getting the free treatments of everything. So went in with him, and he was within the first 5 minutes telling me that, yeah, you have it and that kind of thing. And I ended up doing the EDMR.
You did EMDR with Dr. Meyer, with the psychologist at the time.
Yep. And so I went through the treatments with that, and that was a game changer for me mentally and helped me kind of refocus and everything. So it didn't really help a ton as far as the relationship, but our communication got way better. I will say that much. And it let me not get so dark all the time. So
EMDR is super amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy how well it works.
It really, yeah. If you haven't done that, Laura, you could probably explain better. It's the rapid eye movement thing, right?
So EMDR utilizes kind of bilateral stimulation, which is back and forth movements, to help your brain and your body work together to kind of reprocess through things. It can also help address like negative beliefs that we tend to build around situations. Like it can help unearth big emotions, body sensations that often can stay stuck in a trauma. But yeah, it can be eye movements or kind of tapping or buzzers, but that bilateral stimulation to help unstick things from the past, to help us more adaptively store and file in our brains. I like to say it's such a process of kind of learning to trust yourself again and building
mine was a little bit
trust.
different, because mine was the art one. So
you did art. So
like
accelerated resolution therapy.
Yeah.
So that's more about kind of replacing the more traumatic images with images that feel kind of like more mindful, helpful, still helping you unlatch from the past.
But it still has that kind of presence to it, like the EMDR does. So we still did all that with the movement and the following. But yeah, it's almost like taking a slide out of the picture deal and then sliding in a new slide and replacing it. So let it become like a memory instead of emotionally traumatic, like sitting in that whatever that other area is that they talk about back here. It doesn't let it go into the memory bank.
Oh man, yeah. There's so many great services that can help you go through this process, and that's one of them. I'm glad you were able to have that offered to you. So your relationship unfortunately did take a turn through your healing process, and it came to a place of ending.
It did, yeah.
So how have you navigated understanding and facing that unexpected and perhaps unwanted closure?
To be honest, I'm still kind of in the middle of all that.
Oh.
So,
how long has it been?
We've been separated now almost, like a little bit over 2 years.
Okay.
Now, so
you're still processing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting towards the end of actually filing the divorce and going through with that side of everything. And honestly, one good thing that is coming out of it that's helped us process is our communication is like tripled since we separated.
Yeah.
So we still are very much friends. We just not husband and wife so much anymore. So
do you think that a lot of because I'm hearing from the both of you, it sounds like started realizing the affect, but it was more of a delayed realization of kind of what and how much things hit you. And you went and sought kind of some treatment to try and address. You had some additional coping prior to that.
yes.
Do you think there could have been any help and like additional supports offered to her if there was any readiness? Because that's something I feel like happens a lot is we don't speak on or don't state those things and recognize how big things hit us. And then that delay in time and having to carry that burden in your head, in your body for years, wears on you, and it rips and tears you apart.
It does. It does. At the same time, though, I mean, no matter how many resources are offered out there, you still have to be the one to.
There has to be a readiness. There has to be a willingness
to actually go through it. Like, I had to be pushed up against the wall to get the treatment for the PTSD because I was in denial that I even had it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, as far as like additional resources for her and everything, it would be. I think we always need more of that, regardless of what's out there, for everybody. But they have to be willing to want to do it.
I think that's just another thing, like surrounding a big injury, is it can create us in such a state of survival where we become hard. We can become hard with ourselves, with what we allow in. And I'm hearing that from both of you is just the sense of kind of stubbornness and hardness allowed you to get through, but then it also kind of like kept or created your own selves and beings as a more difficult kind of being to navigate and master.
Well, for sure, because it puts us both like locked into fight or flight mode all the time. So, and
states of danger.
Yep. And I still float in and out of that on the regular right now. So with it was more triggering when we separated. Like it almost brought a bunch of stuff back again. Not so much in the accident stuff, but just stuff that me and Liz have been through throughout the years and just kind of going through everything. So it kind of brought that up. That's why I say I'm still processing and just trying to figure out, because obviously you go through the first part of like, well, what could I have done different?
You start reflecting on and the woulda, coulda, shouldas, and very much any type of ending is like a loss.
Right.
There are stages of like denial and anger and sadness and kind of reflecting on what could I have done and how could I have navigated differently before you finally get to any place of acceptance. For you and like what you've learned thus far in your healing story and just how that's affected your relationship, if you could offer any pieces of wisdom or support to others that are in relationship through an injury, what might you say? What would you want them to know about like healing, how it affects relationships, and just how maybe they could better see and understand themselves, their partners?
I would definitely say first and foremost, communication. I'll say it again, communication is huge. When you close off from each other, you don't get anywhere and you don't see how much the other person needs what out of you or anything outside of that, so communication would be first and foremost for me to recommend to anybody, and be completely honest, no matter what is going on. Be 100% honest. At that point, you can't be afraid of each other's feelings because you're going to get farther speaking what's actually going on and what you need than that coming back later and not coming across in the right way and coming across in a negative way to make things even worse than what's already going on. So
yeah,
that would be my biggest thing. You have to, if you guys are a team, you have to act as a team, work as a team.
Yep. And it might be uncomfortable bringing things up, bringing up hard topics. It's scary. But I always find with my partner, once you do it, once you talk to each other, even if it's hard or scary, you come away feeling better because you did communicate. So
yeah,
I'm with you on that.
I've learned that much, at least with how much we communicate now.
That's awesome.
So like when we talk about stuff, it's definitely a little more relieving now than before. I'm walking away with something already still lingering there, you know, that you wish you should have said or didn't say, or that kind of thing. So,
well, Dave, thank you so much for being part of this episode in such a vulnerable way and sharing your story of healing amidst relationships changes and loss. You particularly had loss on so many different levels between your friend, your leg, your relationship. You've gone through a whole lot, and it is such a space of facing and witnessing to share your vulnerable story with others. And I also hope it adds a sense of acknowledgement and understanding on your own end as well.
Definitely. It
right?
Helps when you share.
It sure does.
Helps you heal as well.
It does. So. That's what we're here for. And may we normalize hard things. Make them valid as well. And empower the individual to take and carry the pain of their own story and healing journey. You know?
I heard a great quote one time, and we're going to see if I can kind of navigate it correctly. Healing is not becoming the best version of yourself, but healing is also bearing witness to the parts of yourself that are the most hidden and unloved. And I feel like there is such a value to bringing an awareness to those hard things in life, those hurt things in life, those difficult spaces we don't want to see, because that's allowing us to really love and embrace all of ourselves.
Yeah. It's all part of us.
Yep.
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
Right?
And
it helps you grow. Going through all of it.
And we're actually going to do a little bit of work with a hard thing for our takeaway technique today. Today is no different. Every takeaway technique we try to gift you all is really to just help empower you and in facing yourself and navigating your healing and providing additional support, an additional tool, additional resource. And today's going to focus around change and loss. And I think these are some of the most constant factors of life, often the ones we don't want to face, but they're also very often found in burn healing as well. And we're going to do a little bit of letters of loss. And so I want you to notice, in the context of your own healing, in the context of your own injury, notice to help you perceive that word, change or loss, and thinking on your particular journey or particular space. Focus on something that you might feel has changed or you've lost. And just notice, however you notice it. Notice how it shows up in your body. Does it come in a certain part of your body? Does it bring a certain texture, a certain shape, a certain color to it? And with that change or loss, take a few moments just to explore, what might it be saying to you? How is it presenting? Maybe it wants to be seen, it wants to be witnessed. Maybe it's bearing a message of pain or of hurt. Maybe it's bringing a sense of mourning or of reflection. Recognize how this applies to perhaps your needs, your relationship with yourself, your body, another. I'm going to have you grab a writing utensil, piece of paper, and just take a few moments as you're noticing this change, this loss, how it's stating to you. See if you can communicate, if you can write out what it might be saying. If you can validate and acknowledge what's coming up around that change, around that loss. Maybe it's feelings, needs, what could have been. And after you write down what that change, what that loss, however it presents in you, is stating, you're going to just hold and read and notice the power of the words stated, what they carry, the acknowledgement of something difficult, something hard that you're holding. And I'm going to ask you at some point, doesn't need to be right now, but you're going to take this paper and you're going to find a way to physically let it go. Now, letting it go can sometimes be a difficult word to navigate. By letting it go, you could tear it up. You could crumble it up. You could throw it away. Kind of a little bit of a symbolic representation of noticing, acknowledging, and letting go. Now, notice here, resistance is normal. Oftentimes, we don't want to let go of things that hurt, that are painful. We want to hold on to them for just a little bit longer. But that pain can and will move towards spaces of comfort. And when you move through that space of letting go, however and whenever you choose to, notice the release that can happen, the emotions that surround that. In every space of change and loss and letting go, there's a little bit of a void that's created. So what do you want to place there? Think of a word, a mantra, a phrase. What do you want to draw in, to hold, to sit with, to help you move through? Maybe that word is peace. Maybe that word is presence. Maybe that word is value or communication. Notice and choose your word, your phrase, and just sit with it for a moment and notice how it feels to both acknowledge and release what's happened and hold on to something new for you. Now, this technique, I will say, for many people can be a difficult one to step into, to both acknowledge how things have affected them and to metaphorically let them go. But it's also such a great practice of kind of connecting our head and body and really allowing us to see the changes affected in both and practice letting go and replacing with something new. Another great way to navigate kind of letters of loss is creating a song, creating a poem, some type of creativity that maybe words that pain, that loss differently. I know that's something very common in the music world, which is a great way to kind of utilize that. So another way to further apply that forward.
Dave, have you written any songs regarding your experience?
Not yet.
I just gave you a little bit of a muse there.
They're up there. Yeah, there's a lot that stays up there and mills
a lot
around.
that'll be happening next year for sure.
Oh, cool. Well, you guys, thanks for being here. Change by Fire is a 501c3 nonprofit committed to helping burn survivors and their families cope and thrive in a life after a burn injury, emotionally, psychologically, and socially, utilizing alternative healing methods, some of which we talked about today, such as EFT, equine therapy, burn scar massage, yoga, aromatherapy, meditation, breath work, and more. And we are excited to provide regular community events in Arizona. to enhance relationships and community, as well as we're actively building out our website to showcase even more virtual supports and offerings as well. So check us out at www.changedbyfire.org. And if you're interested in being on the podcast, sharing your tools for healing, sharing your story, or if you're a practitioner and would like to further help us expand our reach, please reach out to us.
Also, we want to remind about our race. So we have I want to say it's our 6th annual, but I believe it's our Walk of Courage that will be March 26th. Is it March 26th? My goodness, my timing of late. Let me clarify the date. So we have an annual race or walk for burn survivors every year. And that's something that we've done to both build community, to raise funds in the burn community for further alternative healing support techniques. Actually, March 23rd. I was saying March 26th because that's my daughter's birthday, which is probably why I was in my head. But it's March 23rd at Rio Vista Community Park in Peoria. We have 1 mile, 5K, 10K options. It also can be a virtual race if any of our listeners from outside of the local community and maybe nationally or internationally want to participate with us. It's just a race to kind of really build a sense of honoring community and supports that yet can be found in the community. If you want to know about that, www.azwalkofcourage.com.
Yay.
It's very awesome too. Me and Zoe have done it. And we love it. We love it every year.
Yep.
So
my dogs come every year. I've got their little outfits started
I was
for
just
this
going to
year.
ask you about that.
Yeah, they have a new outfit every year. So bring your family, bring your dogs, and we'll see you there. So until next time, heal. Have a look at how your relationships may be changing and shifting surrounding your injury. Examine the need to face and address supports and needs yet unmet. Allow yourself to see the relationship and you as you are. And let go of what cannot be and lean into what can. Change and loss are parts of this life we live, but so also is healing. And a powerful thing is healing done for and through you. So, until next time, thanks for being here, guys.
Thanks so much. We'll see y'all soon.
Thanks, Dave.